The WNBA did not find proof of allegations that fans slurred racist, hateful comments towards Angel Reese during the Fever Sky season opener. Also, we have an updated timeline of the debut of generational talent Shohei Ohtani to the Dodgers pitching staff. Hello and welcome into Front Office Sports Today from our FOS studios in New York City. I'm Renee Washington.
And I'm Baker Machado. Thanks so much for joining us. Of course, every weekday, Renee and I are chatting the biggest stories happening in the business and culture of sports. And by the way, coming up, Indy 500 winner Alex Palou is going to join us. But first, let's dive into the shoot-around.
Starting with the college football playoff format that might be changing again. SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey spoke with several conference teams in the league about an alternative 16-team model of the 5 highest-ranked conference champions and 11 at-large bids for the highest teams in rankings. And Baker, Sankey believes that a previously proposed format of the Big Ten and SEC having 4 automatic spots each, although the Big Ten's okay with it, he feels like it doesn't help them and actually will, quote, cost them positions. But coaches, athletic directors, commissioners all have different opinions on how this will impact them, especially with the trickle-down effect on the regular season schedule.
Yeah, so if anything, it looks like the 16-team format is actually going to happen. What those 16 teams comprise of is sort of the question here.
Correct.
And to your point, athletic directors and presidents who have a vested interest in their conferences want the 5 and the 11. So that way, if you win your conference, you're guaranteed to get in. Whereas you have coaches like Kirby Smart and Lane Kiffin who say, no, we want the 16 best teams to make it. That's fine. The problem with that is if you look at the rankings from last year, how the last season ended, 9 of those 16 teams would be from either the Big Ten or the SEC. And if you include Notre Dame, that means only 6 teams from the Big 12 to the ACC would even be able to qualify for this. So clearly there's a lot of confusion and nobody knows where this is going to go. But we should note the Big 12 commissioner just came out earlier today endorsing the 5 and 11, the conference seeds getting an automatic bid. So that kind of shows you where the smaller conferences are on this issue.
Well, for Sankey and the other FBS commissioners, they do have until December 1st to finalize the playoff format for 2026 and beyond. Well, the biggest Major League Baseball trade deadline acquisition could be the return of 10-year, $700 million superstar Shohei Ohtani finally taking the mound pitching for the Dodgers. Now, it's been 643 days since Ohtani last pitched in a game after having UCL surgery. This past Sunday, he finally threw to live hitters. His fastball, his cutter, his sinker were all on display, and his fastball reached about 94 to 97 miles per hour, which has them thinking he's on track for a mid-July return or debut, I should say, to the rotation for the Dodgers, which is after the All-Star break. And it is wild, though, Baker, because of all the different conversations we've heard, some have said the Dodgers should just wait altogether. They already have the pitching staff in Glasnow, Yamamoto, Sasaki, Kershaw, that they don't need Ohtani to pitch, but others are like chomping at the bit to get him back in the pitching staff.
This is why I think even our headline on Front Office Sports was that the Dodgers already won the trade deadline. And it was with a guy that was already on their roster in their dugout. I wonder, though, if Ohtani, because he's a 50-50 guy, 50 home runs, 50 stolen bases, if he's a little bit more conservative on the base paths or all these other areas, because you have to now protect that arm at all costs because he's such a big two-way player. And to your point, the Dodgers have so many pitchers that are on the injured list right now. 3 of them on their opening day rotation are injured, Snell, Glasnow, and Roki Sasaki. But they have 14 pitchers on the injured list that would actually make up the entire payroll of 6 other teams right now. That's just how much money the Dodgers have.
Spent so much money on them. And also, Ohtani became the first player to reach 20 home runs this season, as Max Muncy, his teammate, said. He does stuff no normal human being can do. All right, well, the PGA Tour announced the elimination of the starting strokes format from the Tour Championship to create a more climactic, compelling experience for fans. Apparently, fans wanted more winning scores closer to par at the Tour Championship, and they have responded with that change. So starting with this year's Tour Championship in late August at the East Lake Golf Club down in Atlanta, 30 players are all going to start even par in a stroke play tournament, and this is all that big push to try to appeal to fans. But Baker, what about the impact on the league and even for the players specifically?
Sure. Well, look, Scotty Scheffler has said that this was a weird gimmick that they created this. It's because you were always playing far behind. So, for instance, the points leader, whoever you were, you started 10 under and you were at least 2 strokes ahead of everybody else. The number 2 player was in points, started 8 under, number 3, 7 under, and so on and so forth. So as a result, everybody then was having to play catch up as a result, which is why Scotty Scheffler and other guys were not so much of a fan of this. The PGA is also saying they're now going to reallocate not just the standings, but how much money is going to all these players after this tournament because of these seedings. It ruined basically so many things about how many people were getting paid in this situation too.
Yeah, so the PGA Tour has also considered other future changes around a bracket-style format, field size, qualification standards, and others to keep an eye on.
I do want to give the PGA credit, though. Look, it's hard to keep things compelling and keep things interesting. We see that with the NFL and the NBA all the time. So they should at least get credit and be applauded for at least looking at new ways to get new people involved, interest, all of that sort of stuff.
Tinker away. Yes. Well, over in the WNBA, they found their investigation inconclusive around the racial comments that were spewed at Angel Reese. Let's take a look at that in our main event. All right, so here's what's happened, Baker. A lot's gone down since the season opener between the Indiana Fever and the Chicago Sky. During that opener, Angel Reese and Sky players all claimed that they had heard some hatred comments from fans in Indiana. Now, the league did an investigation, and they gathered information, they said, from fans, from team, from arena staff, as well as just audio and review of the game, and they found that they could not pinpoint who said the comments, if the comments were said. And so, as a result, the WNBA has come out with a statement mentioning that they weren't able to find the results. The Sky had their statement as well, saying how they are okay with the WNBA's findings or lack thereof. And now at this moment, it makes you wonder, what is the WNBA doing to prevent this from happening in the future? Regardless if these comments were or were not said, there is no space for hate as they haven't launched that initiative. And you want to make sure this does not continue to happen.
Well, especially since this happened opening weekend, tip-off weekend, against two teams that you're trying to build a rivalry behind in Chicago and Indiana. So, of course, I think they had no choice but to say that they have to launch an investigation. If anything, I'm actually surprised that they got the findings as early as they did. I was expecting this to go on for a long period of time. But to your point, they said they couldn't substantiate any of the things that they had saw from audio footage or video footage. They were just going off of the claims that some of the players had said. I think the WNBA had no choice but to go as aggressive as humanly possible on this, because the last thing you want is to start your season with racial allegations at the beginning.
Yeah, and so throughout those conversations they had, interviewing fans, talking to officials, nothing was found in terms of this specific incident, but they did at least have an opportunity to now share other protocols and things they're doing. And their No Space for Hate launch, a multi-dimensional platform they've launched that's aiming to really fight against any hate, promoting respect for the players, and it's across all WNBA spaces. So they're not just focusing on the in-arena behavior, but also online as well, utilizing AI to help track any sort of hateful comments that are across social media at players. So a number of different aspects of just emphasizing team and player safety. But the reality is, Baker, it's really difficult, even with wearing T-shirts and putting, No Space for Hate throughout the courts and in the arenas, to minimize this, because as you grow fans, unfortunately, you also grow haters in that regard. And we know that for any league, for any player, for any personality that's in the public eye, when you grow such a large fan base, you want it to still be about basketball. You don't want to have that space for any sort of hatred in those conversations. So the popularity, the coverage is increasing, but you want to make sure it still is at the root, converting those people into becoming fans and just talking solely from a basketball perspective.
Which it looks like it is. From all metrics, from attendance to ratings to all of that, they're there. The fans are there. And maybe this was a small bump in the road, and maybe all the rest of the season, we don't have any issues relating to this for the rest of the season, which we all hope is the case.
Yes.
But it's clear they had no other choice this early in the season than to take this seriously, which it seems from all accounts they did. And the statements they put out say that they've looked into this and they're going to find other ways to make sure something like this doesn't happen again. And we should note, in just about another week or so, the Fever play the Sky one more time in Chicago, albeit without Caitlin Clark.
Right.
But you're putting in protocols and procedures in place to hope and make sure that this doesn't happen again.
And as we know, it's not just the WNBA. The NBA had this incident as well with Draymond Green having comments said to him. That fan was ejected. Game 2 of that Timberwolves-Warriors series. So it happens across sports, but it's important for the leagues to protect their players and make sure there's no space for hate.
Amen.
All right, well, coming up next, the highest viewed Indy 500 since 2008 led to the 109th champion, Alex Palou. He's on his victory lap and making a pit stop here at Front Office Sports. Right after this break, we're catching up with the Indy 500 champ. Stay tuned. From the top of the Indianapolis 500 podium to here at the FOS studio. We now welcome in the champ, the first Spanish driver to ever win the Indy 500. We've got the wreath, bring out the milk, Alex Palou. Congratulations and welcome.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Feels like just yesterday we were watching you racing around the track, and congrats on one of your best starts to the season. 5 of the 6 last IndyCar races you've now won. Growing up in Barcelona, I'm curious, when you had the first opportunity to drive an oval track in 2020, and now you win your first oval race, you get to celebrate with your team and your dad. What was this moment like for you to win your first Indy 500?
Yeah, I mean, it's been an incredible start of the season, but especially at the 500 was, it's our biggest race. It's the biggest sporting event in the world. It's the biggest motorsport race in the world. So just to be able to win it and to be part of it was amazing. But it made it extra special. That was my first ever oval win. In IndyCar, we have road courses, street courses, and then ovals. And I've always been close, like second, third, fourth. Like I've always been there, but never got a win. So to get the win at the biggest race of the year was pretty sweet.
Well, take us into the last 14 laps of the race, because it feels like that was what changed the whole entire race right there. What was going through your mind in terms of getting that, winning that in the last 14 laps?
Yeah, I mean, it's a 500-mile race, obviously, 200 laps. So, I mean, it's like more of an endurance race at the beginning, and you kind of need to position yourself where you want to be towards the end. Like you want to start creeping into like the first 4 or 5 positions. So we were in a good spot, but then there was some traffic cars in front of us that were going to be involved in the race with us. We just had to follow them. I started seeing that I didn't have many chances to be P1 and to overtake Marcus at that time. So
that was like your moment.
And that was the only moment. Yeah. Like I tried before, like maybe 5 laps before, I was just trying and I was not able to pass him. But finally I got that move that finally was the final move.
Yeah, I love that you also talked about just your car specifically. The number 10 DHL, the Chip Ganassi Racing Honda, that was created just for this race. And you were talking about only racing it at the Indy 500. What was it that your team and you really had an opportunity to figure out that allowed you to set up your car, because you had low gas, the tires were a little bit more worn than others, yet it helped you be able to, down the stretch in those final 14, take the lead and hold on to it?
So basically in IndyCar, we have 16 races over the whole year, and we use a specific car for the 500. It's the same spec car, but we just put all the efforts on that car, like all the details are perfect. When I say we, I don't do much. It's all my team. It's everybody at Chip Ganassi Racing, my engineers, my mechanics. And that car was really, really fast. So it's true that we were not on the best strategy at the end, but my team did an amazing job on having such a fast car that it was still, we were still able to compete against others.
Well, let's talk about actually winning this thing. I mean, Renee mentioned this is your first oval win. You've mentioned you've gotten close so many times. What's the feeling been like, a few hours after now winning this thing for the first time? I mean, I read you hadn't been able to sleep. You woke up at like 3 o'clock in the morning because you were still so excited about this.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. It's like everybody knows worldwide. Like we're doing a media tour like in New York, which is it's pretty cool. Like I won already like 3 IndyCar championships, but this is a lot bigger. Like it just feels like everybody knows about it. It's not only in the US or only the motorsport community. It's like people that normally don't follow racing that closely, they hear about and they follow about the Indy 500. So it's been super emotional. It's been a very busy couple of days with medias and photos and stuff, but it's been a ton of fun.
And get used to it. That's now 4 in the last 5 seasons for you. What does it mean to you to be able to represent Spain as a Spanish driver, to be able to represent your team, your family, and also knowing there are so many that you're honestly inspiring through your success?
Yeah, I mean, it makes it extra sweet, right? It makes it extra special to be the first Spanish driver to win an IndyCar championship and an Indy 500. But hopefully it's going to inspire future Spanish drivers. Hopefully not when I'm here, like hopefully more towards the end, so I don't have to compete against them. I'm joking, obviously. But hopefully that opens the door. I think IndyCar has been more international like lately. The past 15, 20 years, we've seen a lot more international drivers. But in the past, it was really tough to see people from Europe or from Spain specifically. So yeah, the past 3 years especially, it's been growing like crazy, like all other races. The 500, this year we had like a sellout, like you couldn't buy another ticket to enter the place, and it was more than 350,000 people. But all the other races, we've seen a huge growth. I think also with Fox entering and partnering with us this year, it's been huge. The amount of commitment that they showed. Like we had commercials at the Super Bowl, and it was just like they're trying to let everybody know that IndyCar is here and that we have 16 races and not one. So yeah, it's been super fun.
What's the biggest change you've noticed as a driver and just how the sport has been evolving? You mentioned the TV deals with Fox Sports, the opportunities even to grow internationally. What's something that you've noticed that's impacted your experience as a driver through the growth of the sport?
I would say the fans. I mean, just having a lot more fans and a lot more people following IndyCar and recognizing your partners and your team. Like, that's been the most fun, and that's what directly impacts the drivers.
We got time for one more question with you. Obviously, you brought the milk,
well,
the milk thing.
the milk
We've
bottle,
got the wreath over here, but I'm more intrigued about the ring on your finger. Can I see this for a
Absolutely.
second? So I want to show this to our viewers. Look at this. So tell us a little bit of how they gave this to you. Did they size you for this? Do you know how many carats are in this thing? Like what? How
important details.
Yes.
I don't know all about the important details, but this is basically the trophy ring. So it's well, you can wear it, I guess, but it's more just
I mean,
to
it
show.
looks better on you than it does on me, but still.
It looks very good on me, yes.
Yeah.
No,
do you like practice posing like a hair model with this? Okay.
But it's not sized to me. They gave it to me on Victory Lane, so they had it. They just had one for. It was 33 drivers, so any of us could have won that day.
It is really heavy, but
it's heavy.
This is a beauty. This is a beauty.
It's at least a 5-pound dumbbell. At least.
Well, I'm disappointed that you didn't bring the milk because as a milk connoisseur,
It's in his
I was
body. He
looking forward to
already
that.
drank it.
I appreciate you
It's
drinking it though and not pouring it on yourself because I don't like spilled milk. But I do like the fact that you now are under a dozen races left in the season. You've got another one this upcoming weekend as you're looking to now continue your winning ways. The champion headed to Detroit this weekend. Best of luck. And
Thank you.
We're excited to see how you continue to just be successful and grow and helping to grow the sport as well, Alex.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Yes, thank you so much. And again, heading over to Detroit Grand Prix this weekend, Alex Palou, the champ of Indy 500, and more championships coming his way. We've got a quick break coming up here on Front Office Sports Today. We'll be back after this one. And welcome back to Front Office Sports Today. Baker and Renee here. And the 2025 NBA draft is less than a month away. Players have until 11:59 Eastern Time tonight to withdraw from the draft and maintain their college eligibility. So, as we've already seen some players withdrawing their names to return to college, according to the NBA, only 106 players have entered the 2025 draft. So let's get into our own version of Trendsetters, the NBA Draft Edition. Now, does this number feel a little bit low to you, Baker? Because it is. It's the lowest number of early entrants since 2015, and it makes you wonder if this is becoming the norm more. We saw the peak back in 2021 coming out of COVID-19 season where there were 353 early applicants, and you look at every season since then, there's been a drop-off.
Yeah, and those 353 guys that entered into the draft, a huge amount of them, 161, were seniors. How about this year? Of the 106 that have early entry into the NBA draft, only 11 are seniors. So the discrepancy is so fascinating. Also, you mentioned COVID. NIL plays a huge role in all of this as well, because now all of a sudden guys know they can make more money off of NIL staying in college than they can in the pros. The collective bargaining agreement in the NBA does not get renegotiated until 2029. So unless you are a lottery pick, you're likely not making a ton, I mean, yes, tons of money, but you're making about $1.27 million the first year of your contract, and less if you're in the G League or on a two-way deal. So for a lot of these guys, they'll make more staying in college and improving their draft stock if they're not going to be one of the top 12 guys selected.
It does make you feel like this trend is becoming the norm. I mean, that 353 number back in 21, I think a big part of that was because of the fear and uncertainty coming out of the pandemic, where players are saying, listen, I know if I go to the pros and I get an opportunity, I can support my family. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. We were all in a lot of uncertainty at that point. So I think that number makes sense. And as you mentioned, now with NIL and transfer portals, it does give players an opportunity to come out into the draft, assess where their draft stock is, also get a sense of what the combine is like and the process is like, and then determine if this is the right time or if they can return back to college. Because on average, the NIL valuation for basketball players is 65,000 players with at least 20 that are making 1.5 million or more in NIL valuation. So when you compare that to, let's say, the average two-way NBA player's contract, which is around $500,000 and not guaranteed, it actually makes sense why players are going back into college and deciding not to go into the pros.
Okay, so since this segment's called Trendsetters, is this trend going to hold? Is it going to continue to go down? Are we going to have next year less than 106 guys enter in early for the NBA draft? I think just based off of the stats and the graphs that we have shown you, this trend is going to continue to go down. I don't know if it's going to be 100 guys next year. Who knows in 5 years if it's just 50 guys that are going for it? We don't know, but the trends and the numbers seem to indicate that more guys are staying in college longer, not graduating, mind you, but staying at least for a couple years, transferring maybe to another larger school to make more NIL money, and then as a result, improving their draft stock to then get selected in the lottery that then gives them more money and financial flexibility down the road.
I mean, the reality is around 1% to 2% of college basketball players actually make it into the NBA, and it's even harder to stay there. And when you look at only 60 players getting drafted about each season, it makes sense why this trend is continuing to go down. Not to mention the impact beyond even the NBA and college, but even on things like the G League. I mean, the G League Ignite, a team that actually shut down after their poor performance in the 2023-2024 season, a large part of that was also because of transfer portal, NIL impacting their team. So it just changes the landscape for players that they're staying in college longer and maybe building their generational wealth through NIL deals versus just only feeling as though the professional basketball route is their only option. So I think that although 106 seems low, because it is, when you look at how many players are actually drafted, I actually applaud players for deciding to do what's best for themselves and their futures to go back into college and continue racking up some NIL money.
Last point I'll make, because we have about 60 seconds left in the show, that 353 number from 2021, we will never see again.
Never. Well, something else we may never see again, the NBA and NHL conference finals have accomplished a historic feat. So let's see what's bubbling over at the FOS water cooler. 3-1 series all around. The NBA and the NHL conference finals all sit at 3-1 heading into tonight. You've got the Panthers, who have a chance to actually eliminate the Hurricanes tonight for their third consecutive trip to the NHL finals, looking to defend their title from last year. You've got the Thunder up against the Wolves. How does this even happen? We were looking to find out when it last happened and literally cannot find when this has happened.
At least according to ChatGPT, they can't help us with this at all. I'm revealing my sources already. By the way, of all of these games, which one actually do you see not finishing 4-1? I still think the Knicks at least win one more game. I think the Wolves win tonight. I don't think any of these teams at least finish 4-2.
I think the Stars are going to win one, and I actually think the Knicks do get another one. But we'll see what happens. Now, coming up tomorrow, we've got Michael Johnson, 4-time Olympian, 8-time world champ, on the show. We'll see you then for more on FOS Today. Have a good one.